So my mother was from a really wealthy family, and my dad was from a not as wealthy family. He came from a really poor family with that suffered to starvation and hunger and stuff. I'm Shiza Khan, and I was born in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I was born in Dhaka, and I stayed there for about a year. Problem was we weren't supposed to stay there for that long. We were supposed to come a little earlier, but in September of the year that I was born, 9/11 occurred. And when 9/11 occurred, my parents realized they couldn't come in at this time because they didn't want me to face discrimination for just being a Muslim at the age of 1. So my parents really wanted to come to America because they saw it as like a land of opportunity and a much better place for me to be raised in than a third world country. They knew that I'd get a better education here. They knew I'd be treated better here for my gender, for my race even, because it's a melting pot. And I did in the long run. Growing up in Millis, which is 96% white, I believe, according to the demographics, I felt alienated from the very first day of school. People would literally point out the fact that I was brown. And as a kid, it was kind of confusing because you're like, what does my skin color have to do with anything? But growing up, I realized there's a lot to do with it. When I was younger, in middle school, when everyone was trying to fit in, I would try to hide my henna from my Eid celebrations because no one knew what henna was. And if they did see my henna, they'd be like, oh, what's that? And I'd be like, oh, I just drew myself with marker. I didn't talk too much about it. And I was really ashamed of my culture. And being a Muslim in middle school was kind of very rough. Everyone in middle school, as you know, is not as mature. And especially when we were learning about 9/11 and Islam in general, people would make jokes all the time. They would slam doors and they'd be like, Allahu Akbar, and then they'd see me in the room and they'd go, oh guys, shut up, Shiza's here. So there would be a lot of stigma between that, and I didn't even know what I had to do with an event that I didn't even know about or wasn't even really doing anything with. I hated that fact for sure, and that made me feel more alienated over time. But I did find a really good group of friends over time who accepted me, and that's when I made this community here in Millis. I had a great group of friends who all loved painting and art and cultural dances, but in Millis especially, I had a group of friends in my dance club called Terpsichore, where we basically did the Nutcracker and we did spring shows. And the bond that was created between all of us was great, and I felt like I finally belonged somewhere. And now as a senior, I feel like I would like nothing more than to be proud of my culture. If, whenever possible, I like to bring up my culture. And I sometimes feel ashamed I didn't learn more about my culture when I was younger. Going into college, I hope I can do more about that.
First experience with Terpsichore, the dance club in Millis, was actually in 4th grade when we were doing when it was a winter Nutcracker performance, and I was gum jumping. So I've definitely come a long way since then. Last year and the year before, I have actually had the major role of Snow Princess, and this year on my birthday, I actually had the solo Spanish, which is a pretty major role too. It's one of the 3 main soloists. I've always done studio dances, but it always felt so awkward, always on the sidelines, because I never knew anybody else. They always went to the same school in Medfield, but with Terpsichore, I know that everyone here is goes to the same school building, and you can definitely get a bit more closer to them, and it makes you feel you have a lot of fun times, especially when you're dancing in a whole group, and it's always so much fun as in a whole group to put together a whole dance performance.
Band is really important to me, and Millis has a lot of opportunities to find people who are passionate about the same things that you are, and music has been such a big part of my life because I've been playing saxophone since I was in 4th grade, and I've grown up with all of these people who are just as passionate about music as I am. And I think that although we all have a lot of different personalities and everything, we are all working to achieve the same goal. And that's something that connects us and has connected us since we started band in 4th grade. I think that music is a really good method to bring people together because it does act as the lingua franca of the world. People who may not even speak the same language can communicate and empathize with each other through the music that they like.
Both of my parents are from Laos, right? My dad's side came during the Vietnam War, so they came because, like, you know, war. You want to leave from that. And they went through the immigration process. My dad had to change his name into an American name. His American name is Jim. They moved to California around there. My dad, he came like when he was like 18. So my dad settled down in New England, married a Laotian woman, Lao woman, had my older siblings, and then they divorced. And then my dad came over to Laos. And then my dad met my mom. Because my dad was from America, there's like this stigma about America being rich and wealthy. So my mom was like, oh, he's from America. I should tap that. America expenses. And so they had their wedding in Laos. But then they flew over to America. And then they had me. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island, to my parents' birth name, Wasavan Amy Gamalakot. And that was not anglicized besides Amy, because that is an English name.
Hi, my name's Georgia. I was born in China and I was adopted when I was 9 months old. I meet up with this group of girls that came home from China with me at the same time through the same adoption program. And we're all really close. We all stay in contact. We're texting each other. We meet up every summer. It's really interesting to talk to them about their experiences because a lot of the times, even though we share the fact that we were all adopted, a lot of us have different views on how big of an impact that has had on like their identity. And it really surprised me to hear that some of my sisters, well, I call them my sisters, but they're not actually, we're not related. But it's interesting to hear like when one of my sisters says that they're writing their college essay on being adopted. Because in my life, I feel like that doesn't have a big impact on me or my identity. I don't really think about it that much. It's just, I live with my mom, who's white, and I don't really think about it in that way. It just is what it is. But a lot of my other sisters feel like it's some big part of their identity. Being adopted sets me apart from a lot of other Chinese people because it's almost as if I'm a minority within a minority. I noticed that at a summer camp that I went to where it was to teach young Chinese people about Chinese culture, and you could tell when someone was adopted and when someone wasn't adopted. But I really think that for a lot of people, their cultural identity matches their ethnic identity, and for me that's not the case because a lot of the times I feel like the only Chinese thing about me is the way I look. But having white parents and a white family and being surrounded by a lot of white people in the school, I feel like I get a lot of the privileges that come with that, even though I myself am not white.
Me llamo Marco Olivares, tengo 16 años, yo cumplo 17. Yo nací en Venezuela, yo vine aquí a Estados Unidos pues para poder salir de la difícil situación que está en mi país actualmente, ya que ahorita hay como una gran escasez de alimentos y medicamentos, hay una gran corrupción, el dinero ya no vale tanto como valía hace años, con el nuevo cono monetario ahora es más complicado. El sueldo mínimo actualmente es como menos de $3, pero bueno, yo pienso que vine aquí y que aquí puedo conseguir como más cosas de las que pueda conseguir en Venezuela. Aquí hay como más oportunidades de hacer lo que tú quieres. En Venezuela no es tan fácil hacer lo que tú querías. También en Venezuela era muy difícil como salir a la calle tú con tus amigos, nada, no se podía por la inseguridad y que no podía estar tanto tiempo en la calle. Como a las 7 de la noche ya no habían carros en las calles debido al miedo que tenía la gente. Nicolás Maduro es un hombre sin cultura, sin educación, igual, y su gobierno, su combo, son todos unos corruptos que solo piensan en ellos, pues no piensan en el pueblo que necesitan mandar y sacar adelante. Estados Unidos reconoce a Juan Guaidó como presidente y se dice que en algún momento pueda venir una ayuda humanitaria, ya que según hay como fuerzas armadas de los Estados Unidos en la frontera con Colombia. Pero ser inmigrante no es fácil, ya que uno empieza desde cero otra vez teniendo una vida ya hecha. Todo el mundo le ha pasado esto en algún momento de su vida y todo el mundo sale de esto, unos bien y otros salen mal. Y en mi caso yo, por los vientos que soplan, yo creo que puedo salir bien y podremos salir adelante mi papá, mi mamá, mi hermano y yo. Eso no significa que yo no extrañe mi país en el sentido de que tengo ya mis amigos, mi familia y todo eso, pues. Me gustaría volver a visitarlos y todo, pero quisiera volver a ver una Venezuela como la que era hace 20 años cuando mis papás estaban más pequeños, tú sabes. Uno nunca puede olvidar de dónde viene. Con eso me gustaría terminar. Uno nunca puede olvidar de dónde viene y siempre tiene que querer sus raíces, de dónde comenzó. Porque es como la base de todo, de dónde viniste. Y uno siempre tiene que querer el país de donde viene, donde nació. Y además, la lengua que habla. Porque para mí, la verdadera nacionalidad de uno está en su lengua materna. Siempre uno tiene que apreciar de dónde viene y lo que habla. Gracias.
My name is Ingrid and I was born here, but my parents are from Brazil, my entire family. I'm 17 years old and my mom came here a little bit before I was born for what most people come here for a new life, more opportunities, and just like discover America, I guess, and she's been here ever since. So in Brazil, it's a lot harder to get to places. Over here, everyone has a car. Most people can afford one and everyone just, like, you don't see people walking here as much. But in Brazil, from what I've noticed, they're always like walking or taking the bus all the time. Not really trains, because that hasn't really gotten there yet. But it's just a lot safer here to go to school than it is in Brazil, and college is a lot cheaper over there, but it's not horrible, but it could be better. I'm really grateful about going to school here and living here for just in general, because when I went to Brazil, I remember being worried about people taking things from me or just the kind of people I would see where I was going. But over here, I don't think anyone ever really worries about that unless they're in a place with like a lot of crime or things like that. And it's like a big like weight off my shoulders, I think, compared to so many students in Brazil or just people in Brazil, like in the favelas and stuff like that.
Hi, my name is Alina Tavares and I was born in Massachusetts.
Hi, my name is Lucine Archenian and I was born in Lebanon.
Hi, my name is Salvi Tavares and I was born in Beirut, Lebanon.
1970s we planned to come to state because most of my husband's relatives, they moved to Massachusetts, some of them in upstate New York. So the country was on and off, troubled always. And then 1972 we got our visas and we end up in Kennedy Airport and then upstate New York. The reason we left there, the country was beautiful, we had everything we need, like our own home and my husband's own business, but country was bad. Government wasn't controlling for everything and always trouble. When we came here for us to have a better life, for our children to have a better and safe life, and we find it. It was very good to us. We had everything we need, comfortable life, working, and I was born and raised there. I don't want to put anything saying it's a bad country, but the government was weak. We were always divided. Christian, Arab, and Armenians together against Muslim. We were always divided. it wasn't any future, any safe future. So when we decide to come, the neighbors say, where are you going? You have beautiful home, you have a business, all 4 or 5 people working for my husband, and you have life. Summertime it's countries, and wintertime we're in a city. You're not going to find this. But we did. We suffered a lot when we came because we couldn't speak English. We were a strange country. Our country was very small. In 2 hours you could go one end of the other. And here we come here, and every state 10 times are bigger than the country we grew up. But it was good. My kids grew up here. They made it in high school, in college, they made it. And I don't think they would have had that choice when we were there. I don't think so. Especially the girls. The girls in overseas, they don't have no voice at all. You know, your next generation, they're educated.
From all the stories and everything that you've told me, like, there's just so much different with everything. Like, I'm glad that now I can go to high school and everything, and I can go to college next year, and I don't need to worry about, because I'm a girl, like, if anything's gonna happen to me. In other places, especially in the past, it just wasn't like that.
But not everybody like here, you put your mind to it, and after high school you go, you have a chance. You don't have financial, you borrow it. They don't have it there. You don't have it, that's it. That's your limit, your parents' limit. So that's a difference between there and here. Plus, anytime you go out, things happen in here too, but not as much as there. People who born and raised here, they don't know. Other than that, I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy my daughter, and then generation later, we're here and living here in a beautiful country. So safe and sound.
Hi, my name is Alina Tavares, and I was born in Massachusetts.
My name's Jose Tavares, and I was born in New York City. I'm Alina's father. So my parents, they came in the mid-60s. So I was born in New York City, grew up there for about a year. Of course, I don't remember any of these details, but I have the pictures to prove it. And I actually ended up growing up in Dorchester. That's where I grew up. There are a couple of cultural little differences that I kind of noticed. The American culture that I grew up in Dorchester, I grew up in a primarily Spanish neighborhood, but going to the William E. Russell School was where different nationalities actually showed up. That's where I learned that people were either Italian or Irish American, and there were even little differences like with what people brought to lunch. Some people brought, bologna sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly, and my mother would send me to school with like little steak sandwiches, and sometimes there would be yuca in there or plantains, things that are very cultural from Dominican Republic. And sometimes there are even differences in the way we dress. Like, I don't remember wearing a pair of jeans to school until I was in high school, because my mother always thought that you go to school well dressed with the best clothes you had, and that was just the thing with her, and that's how I went to school. So I always seemed like I was always overdressed at school.
That's
Yeah.
I am half Dominican, so it's a big part of my life and family and everything. That was really when I first started to learn Spanish, was partially in class in first grade and then partially with my dad. So that was really one of the draws to move to Millis in the first place from our old house, because they had the immersion program.
Language is obviously something that is very important, and it's one of the ways to really maintain your culture. So if you don't know the language, it makes it difficult. And so out of all the places that we looked at, the Spanish immersion program was the big sell. I mean, shortly after we moved here, everyone was so nice. We live in a wonderful neighborhood. The neighbors were awesome. When we moved in, they brought us little care packages, and they're very nice people. So we've really enjoyed being in Millis. The teachers have been fantastic. It's been great.
Hi, my name is Kwaku Ashabor, and I was born in Boston, Massachusetts. So my parents came from Ghana, West Africa, small nation in West Africa. They came here, I think, in the 80s or the 90s, not too sure. And yeah, they just came here to get a better life for us and themselves, and to see their children to succeed in the nation of opportunities. I've been to Ghana twice. And there's obvious cultural differences in terms of you have the cities, but also if you move farther out, you have your villages, and not all the houses are like out here. Everybody has it's a good house to live in. Some of them are like mud houses, tin houses, and it's like, oh, I don't know where I would have been living, but I could have been living in one of those houses like that. So it's kind of neat to know that there's different opportunities here that I've been able to have, but all at the same time, over there they're very happy with the small things that they do have, and it's kind of different here. It's like over the littlest thing, we're like, as they call first world problems, so they think we're like the straw, but over there, even with their small, what they have, they make use of what they have, and they're still happy every day. They still talk to their neighbors. They still go around smiling, although life may not be perfect, and it's something I appreciate about my culture. Ghana, West Africa, it's not like that nation. All of the nations around it have been torn through war and all that stuff for Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and all those other places. But Ghana, luckily, it's different, because it had nothing like that ever happen. War and the loss of millions of lives. It's not something we're known in Africa to have the most democratic elections. There's not ever any violence in the nation. So that's something it kind of makes me proud, to come from there and to have that. I think that my parents, along with us, has been an effort to assimilate ourselves into the American culture, to understand the differences, and there's also there's similarities and differences. There's some things that let's say a child may say to their parents, that's an American child, say to their parents, that you would be like, whoa, they said that. You would never hear them say that. I could never say the same thing to my parents. It's just different things like that. But yeah, in terms of they've tried their best, and we've also to assimilate ourselves into the American culture and understand the different differences.
Hi, my name is Sophie. I was born in China. I think I see myself as adopted a lot, because we always it's always a pretty major part. My parents seem to reference it a couple times. Yeah, I definitely feel that being adopted is a big part of it. I guess I always feel a bit nervous about it, because I don't really know where I come from. I definitely feel like I found a place here. I definitely feel like I have a lot more friends here. I went back to China in 5th grade, and certainly it was quite overwhelming. I guess it made me feel a bit estranged from that place, made me feel how different it is, compared to how I would have been when I was raised there and how I am actually. My trip back to China definitely really made me realize the sort of closeness I have to in Millis.
I was made fun of a lot for being Asian. It was just a racist society, and I don't know, it was just a lot. They'd make fun of my eyes, my hair, a lot of that. English wasn't my first language, so I had to take ELL in elementary school, and I was behind in kindergarten because I didn't know how to read. I didn't know how to read until 1st grade. It was getting rougher and harder throughout middle school, because it was just racist, discrimination, prejudice, stereotypes. People were like, oh, she's good at math for being Asian. 8th and 7th grade, I was entering a transition where I was giving up. I let it all happen. I just let them do all these things to me, my classmates, my peers, because, letting racism and stereotypes be a joke and act like it's fine is cool. And that's how it is in society. Like, these white kids would come up to me and be like, hey Asian, or they called me chink. They used chink a lot at me. The end of 8th grade, I was walking home with a friend, and this kid comes up to us, this white kid, and screams the N-word at her. And then right after, I told him off about it. I was like, don't say that, blah, 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 some fighting. And then he said, go back to your country to me. And that really hit me hard, that hit her hard. I went home, I was very upset. I cried to my mom. I was like, today somebody told me to go back to my country. Imagine being 13 years old and having someone tell you racist slurs like all the time in school, and then have someone come up to you and be like, go back to your country. Also throughout middle school, I didn't like using my first name. I hated my first name. I was really embarrassed of it. I was embarrassed of my culture, my language, my name. I did not let any teachers try to pronounce it. I would correct them and I'd be like, it's Amy. You can never say that name. You can never say Bois Savant. Kids would laugh at me all the time about my first name. They would make fun of it a lot. And I just really, really hated my name. I hated myself and I hated my culture along with it. After 8th grade ended, before I moved to Millis, I went to Laos. It was nice. It felt accepting. I started liking my name again. I started liking being Asian. I liked my food again. I liked my language. After I came back, I was like, new school, new people. I'll attempt to change myself for the better. And I did. There's so much details I missed, but there's just a lot that I can't explain in less than 4 minutes. And there was just a lot of pain and anguish. Some people still don't understand it. People think, you should just go by Amy, it's easier. It's convenient for others. My name isn't for your convenience. My name is meant for me, and you should learn how to say it because it's my name, and I was given it.
I'm happy I'm here. I'm happy my daughter, and then generation later, we're here and living here in a beautiful country. So safe and sound.